Hi, thanks for joining me today. It's Geraldine from the Paper Puffin Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to make this pop-up block card, which goes over your mantle. If you place it on the mantle, this little flap will come down over the front. When you open it up, it says, "Wishing you the happiest birthdays." This is one version that I made, and the version I'm going to show you how to make today. But here's another version that I made as well, another birthday card with just some different colors. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get started. Let's begin by reviewing all of the pieces you're going to need to build this card. You'll need one piece of your base color measuring 5 inches by 11 inches. Another piece measuring 5 by 7.5. A piece measuring 5.5 by 3.25. One measuring 4.5 by 2.5. And another measuring 3.5 by 1.5. You're going to need a piece of your coordinating cardstock measuring 6 7/8 by 4 7/8, two pieces measuring 4 7/8 by 1 7/8. You're then going to need a coordinating designer series paper. The designer series paper is measuring 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. Two pieces that measure 4 3/4 by 1 3/4, and one piece that measures 5 inches by 3/4 of an inch. You're going to need your coordinating cardstock cut at 3 1/8 by 1 7/8, 3 1/8 by 1 3/8, 2 3/8 by 1 7/8, 2 3/8 by 7/8, 1 7/8 by 1 3/8, and 1 3/8 by 1/2 inch. You'll also need some strips of that same color, cut 3/8 of an inch wide and 3 1/8 long, 1 3/4 long, and 1 1/4. For the designer series paper, you'll need a piece measuring 3 inches by 1 3/4, 3 inches by 1 1/4, 2 1/4 inches by 1 3/4, 2 1/4 inches by 3/4, 1 3/8 by 1 1/4, and 1 1/4 by 3/8 of an inch. You'll also need some scrap paper to cut out or die cut the bows and the sentiment. I'm going to assemble these pieces together, gluing the designer series paper to the corresponding pieces of cardstock. I'll go ahead and do that and pick up there. Now I've got all of these pieces attached and they're ready to go onto the three-dimensional gift portion of the card. Now with my largest piece of the cardstock, placing it with the longest edge along the top here, I'm going to be scoring at 2 inches and again at 4 inches. So 2 inches, scoot it over and score again at 4 inches. The next piece I will score is the piece that we cut 7.5 by 5. I'm going to place this with the longest edge along the top here, and I'm going to be scoring at 1/2 inch. I'll line up the 1/2 inch here on the right hand side and score. Now I'll take the next piece, and this piece was measured 5.5 by 3 1/4. I'll place it with the longest edge at the top And I'm going to be scoring at 1.5, 3.5, and 5. Now to score this piece, which was measuring 4.5 by 2.5, with the longest edge along the top, I'm scoring at 1 inch, 3 inches, and 4 inches. And now for the last piece for scoring, taking this piece which measured 3.5 by 1.5, putting again the longest edge along the top, and scoring at 1/2 inch, 2.5, and 3. Now I'm ready to fold and burnish along all of those score lines. Now for these 3 pieces, all of the score lines are going to get scored at this point as mountains. I'll go ahead and do that and speed it up. I went ahead and die cut the bows. I'm using the bows from the Pretty Pines die set, and I'm going to be assembling all of these pieces now, gluing them in place. I'll go ahead and do that and pick up there. I'm now going to attach the strip of designer series paper to the inside portion of the card. This is the piece of cardstock which measured 5 by 7.5. I'll attach the DSP to the bottom. I'll also attach the designer series paper to the coordinating cardstock, and we'll pick up there. I'm now going to assemble the front and the back pieces of the card. So this is the inside panel. So I'll be folding this over, placing glue here and attaching it to this large piece. I'll also attach all of these panels in place. Now with my card front just turned horizontally for now, I'm taking this piece and I've put some tear and tape on here and here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the tear and tape and start attaching this panel to the front of the card. I'm just taking the tear and tape off this bottom piece for now. I'm going to turn it and I'm going to eyeball where it is on the center of the card here and attach it in place. Now I'm going to remove this piece of tear and tape and flatten it out like this. Now I'll show you this again. So I'm taking the tear and tape off here. I've placed a couple of pieces on this larger panel on the bottom. I'm going to now position this over top of this part, just right here in the center the best I can. Attach it. And then I'm going to remove this piece of tear and tape. I'll fold that in and then I'll place it under like that. And you will see that now the gifts are starting to pop up. I'll do that now with the last piece. So taking this last piece, I'm going to put tear and tape here and here. And so here I have the finished card. You can see that these presents all pop up when you turn it to the side like that. And then this flap will hang over the edge of a shelf or your mantel. When you open up the card, you can see the message on the inside and the coordinating designer series paper. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time.